Yo everybody, what's going on? This is Keegan from Kman Reviews. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit that like and the subscribe button, and if you have any opinions at all you would like to share, leave them down in the comment section. Marilyn Manson, We Are Chaos. American shock rock band icons of the early 2000s scene, fronted by Marilyn Manson himself, aka Brian Warner. Third time covering them on this channel, first back in 2017 when I reviewed Heaven Upside Down, and just a little bit over a year ago when I got the viewer's suggestion to cover Born Villain. I've been pretty excited for some new Manson material for a while now, and despite not being a full diehard fan, I still revisited a few of his albums prior to this one, their 11th today, We Are Chaos. Apparently this album is supposed to be some sort of concept album, with two very distinct sides separating the tracklist in half. Where does this album stack up in comparison to Manson's discography? Let's find out as I review this album track by track. We will start with the singles, with there being two of them. The first one being the title track, We Are Chaos, the wildly polarizing lead-off single, and I'm definitely part of that crowd. First listen was extremely lukewarm. Shooter Jennings produced it, and it shows, with the soft acoustic guitar trying to blend with Manson's signature vocal tone. I do get a lot of vulnerability and certainly humanity out of this clash, however. It's not Manson from the 2000s, it's new, mature, contemporary Manson. And with that being such a radical shift, of course fans are going to sanction themselves from it. The track has slowly begun to warm up on me over time, and most likely will even more down the road, so you know what? I'll keep it around. And the second and final single, Don't Chase the Dead, definitely feels a lot more like Manson on the opening bits. The suspenseful drum build up to a pure bloody shriek from Manson transitions into a nice hard-rocking beat. This is definitely the type of song I would expect from an album titled We Are Chaos. It is fittingly chaotic, even if I think that chorus and its synth keys kind of devolve back into the overly clean territory. But it does show a big flaw with this album, is that Manson really doesn't have much creative steam left in the tank, as this couldn't even compare to some of his truly iconic and more chaotic hits. But for what this album presents, and with these lyrics about not living in the past or it'll come back to haunt you, it's a solid moment here. Good song. Now for the rest of the tracks. The opener, Red, Black, and Blue, opens up with a surprisingly long monologue with Manson under this wavy, staticky effect, and the drums come in, which turn the track into this pretty solid jam when combined with the bass line. Again, there are definitely tracks that did this better on previous albums, even his last one, but what separates this one from any of the rest, however, is Manson trying to recapture that spark of shock rock he once possessed. But unfortunately, it just kind of comes off as unbearably cringy at times, especially on previously mentioned Introduction, and the chorus as well, which doesn't have the most gripping features, unlike tracks like We Know Where You Fucking Live, arguably a much better song just on his previous album. Meh, this one's a pass for me. Paint You With My Love is probably the biggest left field venture on this entire album. It's so awkward and very distinctly not Manson at all. These calming background vocals especially, it almost sounds like some sort of weird, cheesy ballad, and not to mention the acoustic guitar and drums really accentuate the produced by Shooter Jennings label. I mean, hell, Manson literally says honky tonk in the first line. The rest of the track really goes nowhere, even with the Elton John inspired piano playing. It just very slowly builds to this loud abrasive instrumental that really seems forced, and that's a good way to describe this track. Forced. Pass. Halfway and one step forward is what I'd expect from a Manson ballad. This is good. The piano has a darker tone to it, presenting a nice, sinister feeling all around when combined with Manson's echoed vocals. Aside from that, it doesn't really present too much else to talk about. Everything stays about the same throughout except for the outro, which gets to this cacophony with several vocal tracks, blasted synths, but as a track that's meant to be a closer to this side A, it does a pretty good job. Lyrically, it kind of circles around this idea of being born with a big life ahead, but also being ready for being one step away from death. Not a bad track either, definitely a standout in the first half. Infinite Darkness opens the second half, and wow, yeah, it definitely is a big change-up, but a very welcome one in my opinion. The shrill opening is already a good sign, let alone when the instrumental kicks in, which feels very haunting. The windy ambience, slight drumwork, and twisted background synth play out like a track from a horror movie. The chorus as well absolutely screams cult behavior, with the repeated lines of "You're dead longer than you're alive," with a signature brutal Manson melody. It all just feels familiar in the best way. Absolutely a killer song. Check this one out. Perfume only reassures how much stronger this second half is in comparison to the first. The repeated hook of "Get Behind Me, Satan," while not anything new for Manson, is definitely nice to hear on this album, again returning to normalcy. The bass line is surprisingly infectious, and the drums have a solid bounce to them, and Manson has a nice snarl to his delivery all the way throughout the track, which really suits the multi-layered vocal work. Really reminds me something off of The Pale Emperor, and also has these shrill hisses and bites in the background in the latter moments of the track, reminiscent of The Beautiful People. I really enjoy this track, another one worth listening to. Keep My Head Together opens up with this drum pounding that I swear I've heard on a few punk songs from the 2000s. But that mindset changes when the gritty guitar riff comes in, and then it morphs yet again into some 90s heavy alternative rock jam, really giving me a lot of Nine Inch Nails influence specifically. The repeated line of "don't try to change someone else, you'll just end up changing yourself" is weirdly eerie, but also motivational at the same time in the way Manson delivers it. The song doesn't really go anywhere else sonically, so it is a bit lackluster, but overall, I enjoy it more than not. Not a bad song. Soul of a Coagula kind of falls flat for me, as it's nothing that hasn't already been done on this album before. Gotta give massive credit to the drums and that guitar riff, both are pretty commanding in their respective sections, and Manson's vocals are surprisingly gripping as he sings some of these lines like "I'm not special, I'm just broken, and I don't want to be fixed." It's not a standout moment at all, but it is consistent, has a nice brooding melody, slower tempo, and just slowly fades out on the final moments of the tune. Not a bad track, I quite enjoy it. And finally, the closer, Broken Needle, is yet another acoustic track, but as a closer, I definitely see a lot more merit and warrant in a track like this. The acoustics are fairly solid, and Manson's vocals are very strong. I've never been a fan of longer acoustic ballads in general, and this one at the 5.5 minute runtime doesn't grip me as I feel like it should be. There are some nice poetic lyrical passages here that are strong and profound. It's an overall powerful closer, and certainly a fitting one for such a different and mature Manson project. Good song. Overall, based on the singles, I kinda expected to not like this album as much, but I came out of this listen rather surprised. It's definitely a detour from previous Manson albums, and has a nice variety to it, but in the same vein, I feel like there isn't too much that stands out as absolutely worth a recommendation at all. I'm in no ways a Manson superfan. For all I know, this could be some grand coming-of-age album for him, which I can see, but as a casual fan, it's by no means bad. In fact, I'd say most of it is actually pretty listenable, but it doesn't seem remarkable or hits me in any real staggering way that would just knock me off my feet. As a result, I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.